This is the RV Advisor Podcast with your host, Tom Alexander. Get all the latest information, trends, advice from experts, stories from the road, and more in the world of recreational vehicles. Now, here's Tom.
Welcome to the RV Advisor Podcast. My name is Tom Alexander, and joining us today, it is the CEO of Harvest Hosts. It's Joel Holland. Hey, Joel.
Hey, Tom. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you, and you're calling us from Vail, Colorado today, where you've already taken on about a foot of snow, huh?
That's right. Yeah, the snow's coming down. It's looking beautiful, but we're actually gonna jump in our RV next week and head to Texas for the Formula One race. So that kind of kicks off a little bit of snowbirding for us in the RV, which will be nice.
Oh, nice. That's great. So I'm taking if you live in Vail, you're probably a skier too, right?
Big skier. Yep. Last year I got 73 days in and almost 1.3 million vertical feet. So it was a very good season.
Wow. Well, that's pretty amazing. I think I get that much going back and forth to the refrigerator, but that's pretty that's pretty good. Harvest Hosts, as it's described on your site, it's a membership network that invites self-contained RVers to stay overnight for free. And you've got about 900 locations so far, and I'm sure it's growing from there. And it's wineries, it's farms, it's breweries, all kinds of really, really cool places to stay if you're an RVer, right?
You got it. You nailed it. So, yeah, we have over 900 farms, breweries, distilleries, museums, really interesting locations. We actually just put on social media today, we have a new host in Cape Cod, a cranberry bog, where you can stay overnight on this gorgeous property in Barnstable. And then actually go and get a tour of what an operating cranberry bog, how it works.
Wow.
And I think that's the special part of Harvest Toast is that every one of our locations is a unique experience.
Yeah.
You meet great people and you have a really wonderful place to spend the night. So it's really more the experience that we're going for than anything else.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. And the original idea started how? How did it get going?
Yeah, so 9 years ago, the original founders, Don and Kim Green, were RVers themselves, and they faced kind of the same dilemma that most of us face. Campgrounds are great, nothing wrong with campgrounds, but sometimes you want to change it up, and you want to have an interesting boondocking experience. And RVs are built to be disconnected for a couple days at a time, no problem. And then meanwhile, this country is full of incredible farms and wineries and sweeping, vistas. And I think, their thought was, well, why don't we connect RVers with these gorgeous farms, support the businesses, but then also, have an amazing place to spend the night.
Yeah.
So that was the founding concept. I bought the company, in 2018 and just tried to take what they, envisioned and expand it. And we're adding right now about 2 new hosts every day. Our goal is to have thousands of amazing hosts around North America and just kind of keep going forward with what Don and Kim originally built.
Yeah, and what did you do before Harvest Hosts?
So, before Harvest Hosts, I started a video technology company on the East Coast, a company called Storyblocks, video blocks, audio blocks, and graphic stock, kind of the sub-brands. Basically an online subscription for video editors and graphic designers. And so I had a lot of experience in the technology space, and with subscriptions, I ended up selling part of that company and stepping down as CEO in 2016. That's when my wife and I got into RVing. We were just kind of burnt out on living in a city, and we wanted to explore our amazing country. And we set out in a fifth wheel and actually RV'd through all of the lower 48 over the course of a couple years. At the end of it, instead of being tired of RVing, we were just like enthralled and ready for the next challenge. And that's how we found Harvest Toasts and just immediately fell in love with the concept and reached out to Don and Kim and said, hey, do you have any interest in retiring? We'd love to come in and take this to the next level if you would have us. And so that's how it all started.
Wow, that's great. So did you work with them initially at the beginning? Was it sort of like a transitional period?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, it was, they'd really built a wonderful business. And when I reached out, I said, hey, do you have any interest in selling? And their immediate response was no. Like, we love the business. Why would we want to sell? So we got to know each other over the course of a few months. And I had to really prove to them that, for me, Harvest Hosts was not just a money-making opportunity, but rather really a passion project, something that we wanted to really pour ourselves into because we are RVers. Like it's our world, it's our community. And, eventually we landed on an agreement that worked for everybody. They did stay on for a few months to help transition. And then they kind of sailed off in their RV. They do a lot of international RVing, which is very cool. So, and it was a very seamless transition, from them to us. And I think it's because my wife and I genuinely love the product, and it's really easy to sell something that you are a user of. It's a great way to do business.
Yeah, and it seems so many people have responded so favorably, so positively to Harvest Host. It's just great. And I wanted to ask you about some of the most unique, with over 900 locations. Tell us a little bit about perhaps the most unique places, something that's like, wow, that sounds like a blast. I got to do that. What would give us an example of a really, really unique place?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite questions because we have some truly unique places.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for really whimsical, we have a vacuum cleaner museum, and it's a gorgeous museum. We have another museum, the Museum of Clean, where you can actually look at the history of cleaning, like utensils or vehicles or whatever you call them over the years. We have, on my last trip across the country, I actually stopped at a couple of really cool ones. Golden Spike Tower, which is the largest billiard in North America, and they have just thousands and thousands of trains coming through every single day. Mm-hmm. And they have this big watchtower, so you can look down over all these trains and tracks, and you feel like a kid, right? You really feel like every kid loves a train, and it just made me feel like a kid again.
Yeah.
We have a museum of osteology, so a skeletons museum. We have the Speedway Motors Museum of American Speed. So for our race car fans out there, some really cool stuff there.
Right.
Another one that I went to on the last trip through Kansas was the Kansas Underground Salt Museum. And you actually descend a few hundred feet into a shaft, just like the original salt miners and the ones who do it today. And it's still an active salt museum. And so you actually get to see how salt is created from under the ground. I never understood it. So it's just like mining for anything else. They're blowing out the walls. They're pulling these salt deposits out. Very cool. So
yeah.
And the list goes on and on. The Mount Washington Cog Railway in New Hampshire. You can actually take the oldest cog railway in the United States, built in the 1800s. You take this thing up Mount Washington. It literally climbs Mount Washington at an incredible grade, and then you have these sweeping views, from there. So these are the sorts of hosts we have. We have hundreds of museums and what we call unique locations. And I'll give you the breakdown because I'm looking at the list. We have 409 wineries, 226 farms, 359 golf courses, 90 breweries and distilleries, and then about 200 attractions, which would be museums and some of these kind of unique spots.
That's astounding. There's just an awful lot to do and tremendous variety and diversity there. And all these places that you can see. Our guest is Joel Holland. He is the CEO of Harvest Hosts, and the RV lifestyle. Joel, is this something that was part of your growing up, or was it relatively recent?
No, it was not part of growing up. It was something that I had always romanticized, and really what I romanticized was the Great American Road Trip. Mm-hmm. Hitting the road and exploring small towns that I typically fly over and otherwise ignore. And so, as I got into my 30s, I realized, man, I've spent way too much time on all the coasts, which are fine, but I've spent zero time in states like North Dakota and South Dakota and Arkansas. And so that was kind of the original plan, was I want to go see the rest of our country. Yeah. And I want to see what it's like. And what better way to do it than in an RV where I can have all the comforts of home, my bed just like I like it, my coffee machine ready every morning. I didn't want to stay in hotels along the way because that's just a transient lifestyle that's not for me. But RVing is like you live in your house. It just happens to be somewhere new whenever you want it to be. And when my wife and I took off on this big trip, it was an experiment. And our thought was, let's just do it till we get tired of it. And that could be in a couple weeks, or it could be, longer. Here we are years later, and we still just absolutely adore it.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember my dad always wanting to take a cross-country trip in those days in a Winnebago, and it was, and unfortunately he never got to make that trip, but he had, like you said, fantasized about it, romanticized about it, and said, boy, wouldn't that be great? We'd be on the road somewhere and he'd see a Winnebago drive past us and he'd say, that's what I want to do. And, so someday I hope to live that out for, in his honor, because it really does just sound like a blast. I've since doing this show, I've gotten the opportunity to talk with a lot of folks who it's so clear where their passion is. And it's really, it's living in that RV community, connecting with people, and of course, seeing this country, which is so many people never get to see. They live here and they don't get to see their own country. They may travel, which is great, travel overseas and experience those kinds of things, but not like being here and really interacting with people in your own country and seeing all these amazing things out there. It's astounding when you think about it.
I agree. It is truly astounding. And kind of my hypothesis was that there's something interesting to see in every state.
Yeah.
And it's obviously true. But every state's so unique. It's just such a cool country where you can be in, Arkansas and have one vibe and one experience, and you can be in Texas or California, and they're just worlds apart.
Yeah.
But yet easily accessible to RVers. So it's cool, and I hope you take that trip.
Yeah, I hope so too. I'd really love to do that. How do you become a host?
For anyone listening who has a property with space for RVs and they're looking for more business, just go to our website and there's a link on the top that says for hosts, and that page will actually give you more information about what it's like to be a host. Mm-hmm. There's never any charge. It's very important that I put that out there. It's always completely free for hosts to be in the program, and it's because you're providing a very valuable service for our members, providing them with a place to stay overnight. And we have a code of conduct, that asks our members to, among other things, support the host that they stay with. So we say, spend a percentage of what you would be spending at a campground. Mm-hmm. Right? And campgrounds these days can be $60 to $100 a night. Take part of that and buy the local produce, buy a couple bottles of wine, buy a ticket to the Underground Salt Museum to check it out. And everyone wins, right? And the host, and we've run the numbers. Our members right now are spending millions of dollars a year. Like, it's a big number, millions of dollars a year with our hosts, and that can be pretty meaningful for some of our hosts who are trying to share their products and they're excited. So, go to the website, click the For Hosts tab, and then there's a form you can submit to join the program, and we'll call you up, talk about what your location is like, and get you added to the site. That's
great. And as far as down the line, any plans? What are the plans for the future of Harvest Hosts?
The plan is really to just continue growing the program in a tasteful way. And and I was fortunate that with my last business, it went really well. So Harvest Host really for me is a passion project. So it's not. I'm not trying to make this the largest, most profitable company in the world. In fact, I don't even sit down and make financial plans like that. I just simply want to run it well. And to me, that means focusing on the hosts, right? Like if we do a great job promoting our hosts and making them some more money and giving them a good experience, we can continue growing that part of the network. And if we have thousands and thousands of awesome hosts, members are also going to be happy. So that's kind of how we look at it. Grow our hosts. We now have a dedicated team of customer service professionals who work specifically on host recruitment and keeping them happy, and then growing the membership. But I really think it's focus on more hosts, great hosts, and then members will be happy.
Tell everyone where they can find Harvest Hosts.
Yep. So if you go to harvesthost.com, there's a lot of great content there. There's actually an interactive map where you can view all the different types of hosts we have around the country. And if you include our golf courses, we have over 1,000. So we're about 1,200 hosts right now when you include golf courses. And we're on Instagram. It's a really fun way to actually see how our members are experiencing Harvest Host. If you search the hashtag Harvest Host on Instagram, you'll see thousands of photos from our members experiencing the locations, which is a lot of fun. Follow us on Instagram, of course, at Harvest Hosts. We publish a ton of really cool stuff. And then on Facebook, we've got about 40,000 followers on Facebook. We do a good job of we have content almost daily about our locations and what you can experience. So if you're looking for some wanderlust, I would say follow us on Facebook as well. It's Facebook.com/Harvest Host.
That's great. I really appreciate it. I'm reminded, I spent the first half of my life my dad and his brothers had an old movie theater, and that's what I grew up in, that business, and it was wonderful. And I think about when you said, I just want to run it well. And when you said those words, I thought, you know what? That really reminds me of the way my dad and my uncles were at the theater, because it was a neighborhood theater. It was a community theater. And people would just walk in, and they weren't out to make a lot of money. They were out to just provide something to entertain people. And people would come in and out, and they enjoyed the experience of going to the movies. And so when you say, I just want to run it well, hats off. I really think that's just great, because it's sort of a lost art today. You don't hear that much anymore.
I appreciate that. And I think you're right. I think that, capitalism is a great thing, but it can run amok. And I think
yes.
When you just run a business properly, you end up winning as a business owner, because it's sustainable. And I think that's the goal. I want to see Harvest Host stick around for many generations.
Wow, that's great. And what a great mantra, if you will. I think that's terrific. And with you at the helm, I'm sure it will. Joel, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom.
Our guest was Joel Holland. He's the CEO of Harvest Hosts. It's a membership network that invites self-contained RVers to stay overnight for free. But it's also a lot more than that. You can go to harvesthosts.com. This is the RV Advisor Podcast. I'm Tom Alexander. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
You've been listening to the RV Advisor Podcast with Tom Alexander. This podcast is produced in association with Studio Alpha and Alexander Productions in Miami. Visit thervadvisor.com for more.